What if this was all a simulation? How would that, if I knew that 100%, how would that change my perspective? How much more playful would I allow myself to be if I knew 100% that I was going to wake up from this and it was a simulation? And the question is like, if you can't do that in your dreams, practice doing it in your dreams. And when you can get into lucid dreaming, you can move into lucid living, right? Where you can face everything with an open heart, with compassion, with understanding, with curiosity, with determination, persistence, and confidence, right? That no matter what challenge comes your way, whether it's someone coming to attack you physically, it's a pandemic, it's whatever, you trust that you'll be able to handle it. And if you can't, then that's that. It's like the old saying, if you can't do anything about it, don't worry about it because you can't do anything about it. If you can do something about it, don't worry about it because you can do something about it. And if we can just accept our own sphere of influence, accept the limitations of our own sphere of influence, and fully own the power of our own sphere of influence, we ultimately can reduce the anxiety of all of these external events that are absolutely out of our sphere of influence, right? We can only control what's in our sphere of influence. And the question becomes, am I controlling everything in my sphere of influence? Am I taking responsibility for that? Or am I taking responsibility for things that are outside of it, causing myself anxiety, right? Because at the end of the day, think about all the things you guys have gone through and gotten to the other side of, right? We all went through a global pandemic, right? There have been wars and shootings and this and that and all kinds of stuff. And everybody's had their own personal trauma and all these kinds of stuff. And guess what? We're still okay. And it reminds me of when I broke my back. I broke my back and I was in the hospital bed after being taken away in the ambulance. Before the x-ray, and I wasn't able to move my legs, and I was just like entertaining this possibility of like, oh my God, I screwed myself so bad. I can't believe I did this to myself. How dumb am I? Right? I'm not gonna. And then the 6 levels of anxiety. I'm uncomfortable. Right? People aren't gonna be my friend anymore. I'm never gonna be able to get a job, and then therefore I'll just be like poor and hungry, and I'll never have a family, and I'll just like die in a gutter, worthless. Right? That whole sequence of anxiety happens, and finally, boom, just snaps out of it is like a deep level of presence came over me. And I was like, I'm okay right now in this moment. And if I never walk again, so be it. It will be the best thing that ever happened to me, right? I will become a motivational speaker and I will inspire the lives of millions and it will be the best thing that ever happened to me, right? And then it's funny, I have this a friend of a friend was like, hey man, can my friend come by? And I lived in a 3-story walk-up apartment. I was like, yeah, sure. His friend comes by and opens the door and the guy is missing 2 legs and an arm above the knee, 2 legs above the knee, and he's missing an arm. He fell asleep on the train tracks when he was 16, drunk, and he lost 2 arms and a leg, right? And he is a motivational speaker that travels around the world, that makes a huge difference in people's lives, that teaches veterans who have lost their legs above the knee how to function, how to drive, how to surf, how to do all these things that they thought was impossible, and is the most radical dude I know, right? And so there is nothing that happens that doesn't have the possibility of being the best thing that ever happened to you. I remember this instant I had a very traumatic event happen to me. And my mom had said, you need to talk to a therapist immediately. And I talked to the therapist on the phone. And the therapist is like, you're going to be traumatized for life and have trust issues and this, that, and the other thing is like going on. And I said, excuse me. Excuse me. I don't think you know me. I am an incredibly resilient human being, and I've already decided that this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to me in my entire life. So I think if it's okay with you now, we end this session, right? And so it comes down to your decision. No matter what happens, whether it's somebody threatening to kill you, beating you down, a freaking pandemic, a disease, missing your arms and legs, losing your mind. I remember one time I did too many drugs when I was younger, and I was like, I thought I was like possessed, and then I had lost my mind, and then I was going into this psychotic thing, and all of a sudden I like my body had greater intelligence than my mind, and grabbed my heart and my stomach, and a deep voice came through and said, as long as I have love in my heart and integrity in my gut, I can filter whatever this shit is straight through there. And I let that mind just go straight through those two things, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it gave me even more power. So whatever it is, it can be, if you allow it to be, the best thing that ever happened to you in your entire life, right? So there's no need to be afraid because whatever is coming is what your soul said you can handle. Because you wouldn't be getting it if you didn't have the potential to turn it into the best thing that ever happened to you. That doesn't mean you will, but you have the capability to make it the best thing that ever happened to you in your entire life. Whew. I think that was sitting in me for a while. I had to get that one out.